We are coming to you live from the KwaZulu-Natal ROC, the Provincial Results Operations Centre based at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban. Police are indeed on high alert in KwaZulu-Natal as millions of voters go to the polls today. More than 17,000 police officers were yesterday deployed across the province ahead of the elections. Over the past 2 days, the province has seen service delivery protests, which in some areas disrupted special voting. Now, we will check in with the IEC a bit later on. We're hoping to get an update. There's currently a press briefing happening, so we'll hopefully catch up with Mawethu Mosri from the IEC a bit later on to give us an update of how it's happening. Now, a lot's been happening in KwaZulu-Natal, as we said, over the last 48 hours. My colleague Ayanda Mhlongo recaps now on some of the issues here in KZN. Watch.
And like day one, it ended not without its problems. In the early hours of yesterday morning, a voting station, also a community hall, was set alight. Reports say community members had been urging others not to vote, saying government had failed to provide services for them. Quick action by police led to the arrest of 40 people. The incident was widely condemned.
This demonstration was uncalled for and unnecessary. Whilst we respect the right of people to express themselves and to raise their concerns, they should do so in a way that does not undermine the fundamental rights of other people, especially voting.
Police say incidents of violence will not be tolerated. Thousands of police have been deployed across the province, the majority sent to the volatile areas, including KwaMashu and Wembezi. Each voting station will have at least 6 officers. The police will not only monitor the polling stations, but ensure visibility in these areas. And KZN's police top brass say they are taking a no-nonsense approach.
We will not tolerate any criminality or any forms of intimidation within this province, that anybody who seeks to seek attention by contravening the laws of this country, unfortunately, there's going to be some tough luck, because we are going to definitely deal with them decisively in terms of arresting them.
Despite the day's incident, the IEC remains confident the elections will go ahead and will be free and fair. It's urged voters to exercise their democratic right to vote. More than 5.1 million people are expected to cast their ballots today. Ayanda Mhlongo, SABC News, Durban.
Hey, we're hoping to catch up with Ayanda in a little while, but indeed KZN is buzzing. Remember, KwaZulu-Natal has the second highest number of voters in the country, with 5.1 million people registered to vote in this province. Now, it is interesting to know that if every one of the 5.1 million voters actually cast their vote, a party would need about 63,000 to get one seat in the KZN legislature. So it's tricky for political parties because they need more votes for just one seat. We also understand that it's the first time that KZN has passed the 5 million mark in terms of registered voters, so keen interest indeed shown in this province. Now, let's analyze this further, bringing in Bekim Gomezulu, Dr. Bekim Gomezulu. He's our political analyst. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We're hearing numbers such as 5.1 million registered in KZN. We're talking 25 million nationally. Do those figures impress you?
Yeah, they absolutely do, because we have to look at this current election in comparison with the previous elections. So if you look at the figures for 2014, they've gone up quite significantly, which is a sign that a number of people are now getting interested in the elections than has been the case before.
In terms of the run-up to these elections, you've seen a lot of political parties crisscrossing this province. Are you satisfied in terms of them educating the voter about their manifestos? Was enough done to educate the voter?
I think that's where most political parties have dismally failed, in the sense that by and large, instead of political parties telling the electorate what they are bringing on the table, they spend too much time criticizing the ruling party. That one is allowed, of course, as their opposition party, so it's their job to do that. But then if they do it to the extreme, then it deprives them of an opportunity to tell the electorate as to what is it that they are bringing onto the table, which is different from the ruling party. So that one is a problem. But secondly, also, there might be a problem, especially especially with our first-time voters who will struggle to find the political parties they are voting for. So unless then political parties did voter education, not relying solely on the IEC to do that job, because the IEC can only go so much. Political parties have a responsibility to educate their electorate as to what to vote for and then how to go about during the voting day.
Interesting you meant that. Let's just talk a bit about these born-free, so-called born-free, so to speak. That's a valuable cluster for political parties to actually latch on, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the born-frees are a critical element in this election for a number of reasons. In the past, say for example, talking about the 1994 elections, 1999 elections, 2004, 2009 elections, these born-frees were not voting at the time. And the danger, therefore, is that those political parties that have presented themselves as the liberators, so to speak, run the risk of losing out on the youngsters, because as far as they're concerned, they don't know anything about apartheid. So you cannot therefore win their votes on the basis of the ills of apartheid, because they have no experience thereof. So in other words, it means that political parties have now to strategize and find a way of meeting the youngsters halfway and speak their language, so to speak, so that they can be able to entice them to vote for them. So that one will be a very critical part.
Let's just talk about the political environment in KwaZulu-Natal. From your assessment, do you think it was conducive for free and fair campaigning?
Compared to the previous elections, it was relatively conducive because, for instance, in the past, we have had areas where no party will dare set a foot there. But in these elections, we've seen political parties crisscrossing the country, moving to all the possible areas where they could go without any obvious intimidation. Of course, there were patches of violence here and there, but good enough, our security forces have been on standby to make sure that they maintain peace. So my take is that looking at the way things have gone during the preparation stage, we will also see incidences of violence here and there, but because our security personnel are well prepared, then of course they will be able to deal with the situations as they come.
We have had a number of service delivery protests seemingly in the last 48 hours. Do you think those service delivery protests actually blemish the image of the elections going forward?
Yeah, reading it from a distance, one might say that they do in fact cast a dark cloud on the elections. But then we also have to look at the so-called service delivery protest in a wider context. For instance, if you look at what has been happening in places like Durban, for instance, then people are complaining that they have not been paid for 7 years. Now the question is, why did they wait until now? So then it means that there is something sinister happening. But then luckily for Durban, then the leadership was able to address the issue before the election day. So then we are hoping that, of course, then we'll have a relatively smooth election.
Great. Let's just leave it there. Stand by, Dr. Becky Mgomezulu. He's our resident political analyst. We will be catching up with him a bit later on, analyzing the day as well as some of the results that are likely to come in later on. We've had political parties, leaders around the voting in KwaZulu-Natal. We've seen the President, Jacob Zuma, casting his vote earlier on in Kandla. IFP President Mangosuthu Buthelezi voted at the Buthelezi Traditional Court in Mhlabatini, Northern KZN. Remember, he has been in charge of the party since its inception, since 1975, can you believe it? We've also seen Minority Front leader Shamin Thakur Rajbansi voted in Chatsworth, south of Durban. The KZN Premier Senzo Mqunu voted at Mbangeni. Now, we'll bring you some of the footage of these leaders in a little while. We've also seen the NFP President, Zelena Kamagwaza MCB, casting her vote in Ulundi, Northern KwaZulu-Natal. Remember, she's contesting her first national and provincial elections as NFP leader. The party contested its first elections back in 2011 in the local government elections. Now, let's quickly go over to my colleague Ayanda Mshlongo. She's in one of the concern areas, one of the hotspots that has been identified. That's the KwaMashu hostel. Ayanda, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Blaine.
Ayanda, firstly, what is happening at the moment? What is the mood like at that voting station?
Well, I must say, Blaine, we speak of KwaMashu, of course, being a very volatile area, but I must say that in the past couple of months, Blaine, it has been really calm. Since this morning when we arrived here, Blaine, I can tell you that the queues have been been growing. I know in front of me you cannot see, but this queue stretches far beyond what the eye can see, and you can see residents here of the hostel coming out in their numbers. We've chatted to some and they've been very eager and excited to be casting their vote this morning. It is very, very calm, Blaine, and I said earlier on in our report, or rather yesterday, that a lot of intervention, of course, has been done to ensure that the election here at the KwaZulu hostel gets off very peacefully. There was a bit of a delay, Blaine, at the voting station where we are. It is one of the largest voting stations here at the KwaZulu Hall, where around over 5,000 people are expected to cast their vote. Around the area of the hostel, there are 4 voting stations, and they expected about 18,000 people to cast their votes today. Of course, Blaine, security has been very instrumental in ensuring that the election here is safe. And earlier on, just a few minutes ago, in fact, we just missed those shots. Members of the SANDF have been deployed here. But just very quickly, Blaine, I just want to speak to one of the voters, Muzi Kula. I understand that he was the second voter to cast his vote here at KwaZulu. Muzi, thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
Just tell us, how was it? You're the second person in the queue. Must have been very eager to come and cast your vote today.
So, and I'm very happy because if you can see now, the people here is on the line, is happy.
But he's with the president, doesn't come.
All right. Thank you so much again for having joined us. We'll continue to take a look at what's happening in Durban, but we just had to cut that transmission just for a moment or two because we wanted to bring you the latest news on what's happening on the ground. Right behind us, if I turn to my right, I can see the officials from the IEC gathering. They're taking their seats. They're about to brief us on how the morning has gone so far. If there were any hiccups experienced, they'll let us know exactly what's happening. And if you have a concern in your particular area, why not stick around and just listen up and see if they'll be able to address some of those concerns and answer your questions.